Today I'm going to do some muscle testing with Sarah here, and we're going to learn a little bit about the way that muscles are strong and weak depending on the context and the position. So I'll try to lay out when the muscles should be strong and when they're not, and then when they're weak and if that's the proper response. So I'm going to do a couple of muscle tests with her, just a hip flexion test. Ready? And hold. So she's strong. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shorten the muscle spindles here, and I'm going to retest that muscle. Hold. And she weakens. And that's a normal response. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to have her hold the thigh up. Ready? Hold. And that one is weak. So that one is technically weak in the clear, meaning I didn't do anything to stimulate it. It's just weak in that position. Okay, I'm going to do a hamstring test also. These are very generalized tests. So I'm going to do a little hamstring test on the right side here. Ready? And relax the foot. And hold. And she's strong. Now I'm going to go to the hamstrings and shorten them. Ready? And hold. And they inhibit. And that's a normal response. So this quad was weak. Let's check the hamstring. And hold. And she's weak on that side also. Okay, so this is a normal response in the clear to have the muscles be strong. It's abnormal for them to be weak without any muscle shortening and different things like that. So what I want to look at is, again, some patterning for the muscles. If I, for example, facilitate the hamstring by tapping it, giving it some input, and then I test the quad, hold, it's weak. That's a normal response. If I get stimulus on one side of the joint, the muscles on the other side of the joint reflexively relax. It could be the same thing. If I tapped on her quad, her hamstring would go weak. So that's on the same side of the body. It also affects the other side of the body. So her quad and hamstring are weak. If I add a stimulus to this quad, essentially what I'm doing is I'm inhibiting the hamstring, facilitating the quad by doing the tapping. It does actually the opposite on the other side. So if I tap her quad here, it's actually going to make the the hamstring on the other side strong. So if I go here and I tap, 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 and then I go and test her hamstring, hold, it tests strong. Now, that's only temporary. While the stimulus was there, it hangs out for a little bit. If I test it now, hold, and she's weak again. So there's kind of a facilitation and inhibition pattern, if you will, on one side of the body. That pattern actually transfers over and is actually kind of the opposite in terms of facilitation and inhibition on the other side. So at this point, I'm going to do a little bit different kind of a test. Those were direct muscle testing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do some what I call global response testing. So if she has her quad here, which was strong, and this side was weak, we can kind of test that through the whole nervous system. So I'm going to use this arm because we kind of tested some stuff. And I'm going to push the arm down, hold, it's strong. If I shorten the muscle spindles of her anterior delt here, which is kind of the primary muscle, and go, she's weak. That's a normal response. Okay, so if I have her put her hand on her weak quadricep, and I do that same test, hold, it's weak. This hand is kind of showing me, or makes the body kind of respond in a weak way so that I actually can use a secondary muscle to test what's going on underneath her hand. Remember, this quad was strong, so I can have her move over and go quad on that side, and I test, and she's strong. Hand on this side, she's weak. So there's two different kinds of muscle tests that I use to determine if the nervous system is behaving appropriately. One is direct muscle testing, and the other one is kind of global inhibition facilitation. So we can go through and we can kind of look and see, are the muscles doing what they need to do, and not only being strong when they need to be strong, but actually being inhibited and relaxing when they need to relax. Okay, the number one reason that a muscle might change like that would be pain. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little demonstration here that shows how pain can start to become a muscle inhibitory pattern. So we're going to retest this muscle, and this muscle's strong. Okay, and we're going to retest this one, and it's strong. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Sarah a little slap on the shoulder every time she brings this thigh up. Ready? Go. And again. Good, relax. So her brain associates hip flexion with discomfort. Okay, so bring the leg up, and I'm going to test it. Ready? Hold. And it goes weak. And it goes weak because it's associating, if I flex my hip, I'm going to have pain. They're now literally wired together. So if you're moving in pain, then your brain's going to literally start to shut things down to avoid that pattern. It generally doesn't come back like the other one did. Bring her leg up again. It's probably still there. Hold. It's still there. I haven't given her brain a reason to believe that lifting her leg or doing hip flexion isn't going to be painful. Okay, one more time, bring it up. It's still inhibited. Now, I'm going to have her do a couple hip flexions, and this time I'm going to do a kind of an anti-pain rub for that shoulder. Go ahead. So I'm giving it an input that's different. I'm literally rewiring it. Relax. So now when she brings the leg up, hold, it's back to being strong. And it will stay that way, again, unless she does something that is hip flexion, and there's discomfort or her brain wants to kind of move around that because it doesn't work quite right. The other thing would be if you have tissue in the body that's maybe sending pain signals behind the scenes. Oftentimes things like scars or tattoos or old injuries, different things like that, can be sending pain signals to the brain that you're not necessarily even aware of. So there's ways to test that too. I've worked with Sarah before, so we've cleared up most of her problems. I'm going to have her, bend this knee. She's got a bunch of scarring on one of her knees here, so I'm going to have her literally go here, and let's do a muscle test. Ready, hold, and she still has some problems in that one. Ready, hold? Good. So the next, we'll talk about that in another video in depth a little bit more, how we might correct those sorts of things. But just so you know that there's different receptors in scars and different tissues that can cause these kinds of patterns.